The Blackwood Forest was a place of whispers and shadows, where ancient pines blocked out the sun and the air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and forgotten history. For Alara, a history graduate student in her mid-20s seeking solitude after a personal loss, it was the perfect escape. Her boots crunched on the brittle forest floor, the only sound in the profound silence. Her map, a modern digital one, showed nothing but wilderness. But an old paper map she'd found in a second-hand bookshop hinted at something else. A dotted circle and the faint, typed words, Silent Creek Settlement, Pop 82. According to all official records, no such place had ever existed. Pushing through a thicket of brambles, Alara stumbled, her hand landing on something hard and angular half-buried in the loam. It wasn't a rock. Brushing away the decades of soil and decaying leaves, she uncovered a small, metal lockbox, its key rusted in the lock. A sense of thrilling dread coursed through her. Using a stone, she smashed the rusted latch. Inside, protected from the elements, was a diary. The cover was made of faded floral cloth, and the pages were brittle and yellowed. In a child's careful cursive, the first entry read, May 3, 1953. Papa says the men from the government are coming back today. Sarah is scared. I told her not to be. They're here to help. Alara's heart raced. This was real. She spent the rest of the day devouring the entries. The author was a 12-year-old girl named Lily. She wrote of her family, her friends, and the idyllic, simple life in Silent Creek. But a dark undercurrent began to flow through the later entries. The men from the government weren't helpers. They were enforcers. They arrived in intimidating trucks, wearing severe uniforms, and began taking measurements, asking pointed questions, and cordoning off the town well. June 15, 1953, the last legible entry began. Mr. Higgins yelled at the tall man today. He said, "You can't just erase us." The tall man didn't even raise his voice. He just said, "For the greater good, it's already done." What did he mean, already done? Mama won't let us drink the water anymore. She says it tastes like lies. The final page was a chaotic scrawl, as if written in frantic, trembling terror. They're gathering everyone at the church. The trucks are running. The air smells sweet and wrong. I'm hiding this in our spot. If anyone finds this, please remember us. We were H. The sentence was left unfinished. Alara sat in the deepening gloom of the forest, the diary heavy in her hands. This wasn't just an abandoned town. This was a crime scene. Driven by a moral obligation to the voices of the past, Alara dove into an obsessive investigation. Official state archives had no record of Silent Creek. Census data from 1950 showed the population, but by 1960, the names were simply gone with no explanation. It was as if 82 people had been neatly snipped out of history. Her breakthrough came when she cross-referenced the names from Lily's diary with regional military records. She found a declassified, heavily redacted file from the Cold War era, Project Clean Slate. It was a contingency plan for the relocation and assimilation of populations in the event of a containment failure. The file was vague, but one phrase chilled her blood. Utilizing experimental aerosol compound VX-7 for mass behavioral pacification, the sweet smell Lily wrote about. It wasn't an accident. It was a test. Alara tracked down the only surviving name she could find from the project's oversight committee, a man named Arthur Pembroke, now 94 years old and living in a secure, luxurious retirement community. Posing as a genealogy researcher, she managed to get a meeting. Pembroke was frail, seated in a wheelchair by a grand window, but his eyes were sharp and cold. When Alara cautiously mentioned Silent Creek, a mask of indifference fell over his face. "A tragic case of a cholera outbreak," he stated, his voice like dry gravel. "The state quarantined and relocated the survivors for their own safety. It's all in the records, girl. You're wasting your time chasing ghosts." "But I have a diary," Alara pressed, her voice steady. "Lily's diary. She wrote about the men, the trucks, the sweet smell in the air. She wrote about you." For a fleeting second, the old man's composure cracked. A flash of panic, then fury, crossed his features. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Listen to me, you meddling child. Some truths are buried for a reason. For stability. For the greater good. You dig up the past, you won't like what you unearth. Now get out." His threat hung in the air, but it only solidified her resolve. He hadn't denied it, he had confirmed it. She had found the arrogant antagonist, the man who had presided over this atrocity. Alara knew taking this to the local press was useless. Pembroke's influence likely still reached far. Instead, she packaged her evidence, high-quality scans of the diary, her research on Project Clean Slate, and a hidden recording of her conversation with Pembroke, and sent it to a major national investigative journalist. The story broke like a dam bursting. Government's Cold War ghost town. A test on its own people. The public outcry was immediate and furious. Pembroke, once a decorated, respected figure, was now the face of monstrous betrayal. A formal federal investigation was launched. Under the glare of national scrutiny, the truth was forced into the light. Project Clean Slate was real. The experimental compound had been designed to induce amnesia and docility, but it had a fatal flaw. The people of Silent Creek hadn't been relocated. They had been killed by the very substance meant to pacify them, and their bodies were quietly disposed of in a mass grave deep in the forest. The cover-up was to avoid a scandal and to protect the weapons program. Arthur Pembroke was placed under house arrest, charged with crimes against humanity. He died of a stroke 2 months later, before his trial could begin, his legacy forever stained as a coward and a murderer. But the story's true ending was one of remembrance. With the government compelled to provide restitution, a memorial was erected at the edge of Blackwood Forest. A simple, beautiful stone wall bore the names of all 82 victims, including Lily and her family. At the dedication ceremony, Alara stood quietly at the back. An elderly woman, a relative of one of the victims, approached her and took her hand, her eyes brimming with tears. "For 70 years we wondered," she whispered. "We were told they abandoned us. You gave them back to us. You gave them their names back." Alara looked at the wall, at the name Lily Higgins carved forever in stone. The forest no longer felt like a place of ghosts, but a place of peace. The secret was out, the truth was known, and the 82 souls of Silent Creek were finally, truly, home. The most powerful force in the world was not a government secret, but a single, persistent voice refusing to let the past be forgotten.